and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. In this video, we're going to be starting a brand new series, and we're going to be painting a landscape with water and ice. And if you want to follow along traditionally, here are some of the brushes that I use: a 2-inch flat wash, a number 10 bristle, a number 8 filbert, a number 10 flat brush, a number 6 flat brush, a long script brush, and a short script brush, and also a number 3 round. Now here are the colors that I use, and these are mostly for acrylics, and it's going to vary from brand name to brand name. But I mostly use Grumbacher Academy and Liquitex acrylics. And you can also use oil paints if you want to. You might have to let your layers dry a little bit more, because the techniques that I show are mainly for acrylics, and they dry a lot faster, of course, than oils. But you can use oils if you want to. So the app that I'm going to be using is Infinite Painter for Android. And it's just had a new update, so it has a whole bunch of different brushes in it now. And so I've been playing around with them, but I wanted to start with just the old standby Leo brush that I really like a lot. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with the sky, and you can use your flat wash brush if you want to for this, depending on the size of your canvas, if you're following along traditionally. And so I just want to go ahead and take some ultramarine blue, mix it with white acrylic gesso, and then throw in a touch at the bottom of the sky for a little bit lighter horizon. Throw in a touch of white acrylic gesso with cadmium orange. And if you're following along traditionally, cadmium orange can overpower your white, so make sure that you just add a small touch to that white paint there. And then just use X strokes to kind of blend in the sky if you're following along with your acrylics. And for the Infinite Painter brushes, I like to use some of the airbrushes and the spray brushes to kind of blend in the bottom there. And I just kind of want to give it a sort of just a lighter look at the horizon. And I've gotten 2 pictures from Pixabay, and I am using those for the photo references. And so the next thing that I want to do is add the water. So you want to use the same color that you use for the sky, but you might want to darken it just a little bit to show the lake there. And so you would throw in a little bit more ultramarine blue and just darken it a little bit, and go ahead and add your lake colors there. And you want to do the sky and the water at the same time, because you've kind of got your colors going the same, and so you want to be able to keep them the same color there. And so here I'm just kind of smoothing out the lake a little bit and using some of the spray brushes to smooth it out. And then I wanted to go ahead and add some of the distant mountains there, and I'm using kind of the same sky color. And if you're following along traditionally, your mixture will be ultramarine blue, and you might add a little bit of burnt sienna just to darken and maybe gray out the mountains just a little bit. And so I'm just kind of getting a pretty good mountain shape there that I want. And then I wanted to add a little bit of some snow on the mountains. So I want to add a light snow color at first. We don't want to start off real glaring at first. Just kind of add a little bit of a light color, and then you can add a layer of lighter color there. And if you're following along traditionally, you'll be using your number 3 round brush will probably work pretty good, or your number 8 bristle brush, and you want a sort of a jagged look. And you're going to be using white acrylic gesso with just a touch of cadmium orange. And I'm using the Leo brush, and then I'm also using some of the newer brushes like the old oil paint brush, and I'm trying to sort of play around with some of the different the new brushes, just trying to get kind of a jagged look there. And then I'm smudging in the snow, because you want it to kind of be softened on the edges of the mountains. And you can do this with your finger if you're following along traditionally. And I'm using some of the chalk brushes. The schoolhouse chalk brush works really well for smoothing the snow. And then here I wanted to add some distant trees. So I went ahead and took some purple and added a little bit of some white to it. Maybe add a little bit of burnt umber or burnt sienna, just to kind of gray it out. And I'm using the velocity spatter brush for the trees to kind of just give it an uneven look. Those are the distant trees that are going to be at the foot of the mountains there. And then here I wanted to go ahead and add the snow bank that's on the other side of the distant trees. And you can use your Leo brush if you're following along in Infinite Painter. And start with a darker layer for the snow. And you can just use the same blue mixture that you've been using and darken it some more with ultramarine blue if you're following along with your acrylics. And just add a little bit of a white layer on the top and smudge it together with your finger. And then here I was using the smudge brush to go ahead and smear the snow together. And this is where you can actually have an oil painting technique if you want to, where you can just kind of mix the darker blue with the lighter colors for the snow. And then here we want to add a little bit of some detail to the distant trees to make it look like they're trees that have lost their leaves. And so you can take your script brush if you're following along traditionally and make some thin branches in the distance, just make it look like thin distant trees. And you can use your Leo or Angelo and really decrease the size and use a darker purple color for that if you're following along with your Infinite Painter. And then here I'm adding a little bit more highlights to the distant snow on that shore there. And you don't want them real bright, you want to keep them kind of off-white color. And then I've reflected some of that into the water, including the purple trees. And anything that you do above the water, you kind of want to reflect into the water. And so I'm just putting some smudges of purple in there. And then here I'm drawing the shoreline. And so I'm going to use a little bit of a darker blue color for that. And make sure that you break up the shoreline, because then that looks like it's rocks or it's chunks of ice and things like that. You want to make sure that you don't have a solid line for the shoreline. And then you want to smudge it out so that it looks like it's shadows underneath the snow. And you want to go ahead and do that on top of your reflection there, so that makes it look like there's a shoreline and not just a straight line. You want to make it jagged. So this is the end of my Winter Lake Part 1 video, and in Part 2 we're going to go ahead and work on the bushes in the middle ground. So if you're interested in seeing that, hit the subscribe button. And thanks for watching, and thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.